Hello, everyone. I'm Grace.
And I'm Jonathan.
Let's get started with this week's GGC Radio.
So, imagine staring down a sprawling, restless crowd of, 20,000 hungry people.
Yeah, that is a massive crowd.
Right. And the only resource you have to fix the situation is a couple of sardines and a few pieces of crusty bread.
Absolute panic.
Panic sets in immediately. Your heart rate spikes, and instantly your brain just starts frantically looking for an exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You want a way to manage the crisis before it completely blows up in your face. And, we do this every single day, don't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Constantly. When life feels completely out of control, our immediate reflex is to just manufacture a safety net. So, welcome back. This week we're doing a deep dive into Matthew chapter 14, pulling from Pastor Giro's Sunday message.
Surrendering control to a place of fulfillment.
Exactly. And the goal today is to look at what actually happens when we stop trying to engineer our own survival and finally surrender our incredibly inadequate resources to Jesus.
That is just the perfect way to frame it. Because Sunday's message was, it was one of those that completely stops you in your tracks.
Yeah, it really does.
It forces you to look at how you operate under pressure. And sitting in our small group, sharing time afterward, it became so clear that this ancient story in Matthew is actually a mirror.
Wow, a mirror.
Right. It's a mirror reflecting our modern, everyday anxiety.
It really is. So let's actually look at that mirror and set the stage a bit, because the physical context here explains everything.
Right. The logistics of it.
Yeah, it's evening. Jesus and the disciples are out in a completely lonely, desolate place. And there's this massive crowd.
Like thousands of people.
The text says there were about 5,000 men plus women and children. So we're potentially looking at 15 to 20,000 tired people.
Which is just a logistical nightmare.
A total nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And the disciples look at this impending crisis and they make a very calculated proposal. They say, hey, Jesus, it's late. We are in the middle of nowhere. Send the crowds away so they can go into the villages and buy themselves some food.
Sounds pretty logical, honestly.
It does. But I'll be honest, when I first read this, my immediate instinct is to judge the disciples.
Oh, for sure.
They've literally watched Jesus perform miracles. They've seen the impossible happen. Why are they suddenly acting like panicked event coordinator?
Well, because that is the raw psychology of human control, right?
How so?
It is one thing to watch a miracle happen for someone else, but it is entirely different when you feel like you are the one holding the logistical bag.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense.
What's fascinating here is the underlying theology behind their panic. Pastor Giro unpacked this so beautifully. The disciples were desperately trying to force what we could call a reasonable landing spot.
A reasonable landing spot.
Exactly. They wanted an outcome that they could personally understand, wrap their minds around, and most importantly, an outcome they could control.
It makes sense on paper. They're essentially looking at the math and deciding to settle for a managed failure.
Right, a managed failure.
Because sending tens of thousands of people into tiny first-century neighboring villages at dusk to suddenly buy food, that wasn't actually going to work.
No, the villages wouldn't have enough food anyway.
Right. It's a terrible plan, but it's a plan they came up with.
Exactly. They preferred a predictable failure over an unpredictable grace. And that is the absolute danger of the reasonable landing spot.
Wow. Predictable failure.
Yeah, when we engineer these safety nets, it leads to an incredibly incomplete result. But more dangerously, it essentially creates a Jesus is unnecessary theology.
A Jesus is unnecessary theology. That is heavy.
It is the ultimate form of self-reliance. The disciples were basically saying, we can handle this using human logic and human resources. Jesus, you just step back and let us organize this dispersal.
Yeah. They were trying to prove they could somewhat mitigate the disaster without divine intervention.
Exactly. And the terrifying part is how often we replicate that exact same theology in our own lives.
We do it constantly. We are obsessed with the illusion of risk mitigation. And this actually brings me right back to our small group discussion after the service.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Kaizo's comments really struck a chord with me.
Yes, they were so good.
He was sharing how he realized he constantly does this at work and even in his personal relationships.
He was incredibly honest about it.
He really was. He said that whenever he feels overwhelmed by a massive project or a tense relational conflict, his default mode is to just micromanage the absolute life out of the situation.
Right. Just control everything.
Yeah, he said he'll intentionally send a safe, mediocre email or settle for a really shallow resolution to a conflict just because it gets the problem off his desk.
It makes him feel like he's in the driver's seat.
Exactly. He would rather have a poorly resolved, lukewarm situation that he personally controlled than actually invite God into the messy, uncontrollable reality of what is happening.
Wow. Yeah.
And when he said that, I just thought about my own life. Because it is genuinely terrifying to let go of the steering wheel. We lock God out because we are scared of what he might ask us to do if we let him in.
That is such a profound insight. We think, well, if I can just orchestrate this outcome, even if it's not great, at least I won't be caught off guard.
Right, exactly.
But by clinging to that illusion of control, we tell the creator of the universe that his intervention isn't needed. We've already secured our little compromise.
But then Jesus completely flips the script.
He does, because our self-reliant plans always fall short. Jesus looks at them and says, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat.
But wait, bringing what you have sounds great in theory, but look at what they actually presented to him.
Oh, it's terrible.
It's barely a snack.
Oh.
5 small loaves of barley bread and 2 small fish for 20,000 people.
Which is nothing.
It's nothing. And actually, since we are dealing with those 2 fish, I do have to ask, do you know why fish are so smart?
Oh my goodness, that was painfully cheesy, but, well, actually, it highlights the absurdity of the situation perfectly,
Right.
because they weren't bringing a school of fish. They weren't bringing some massive, impressive catch that could actually make a dent in the hunger of the crowd.
No, not at all.
They brought the equivalent of a first century Lunchable. It is aggressively inadequate.
It really is. So my question is, why would Jesus demand they present something so embarrassing?
That's a great question.
I mean, if he is going to perform a massive miracle anyway, why humiliate the disciples by making them empty their pathetic pockets in front of everyone?
Because bringing those 5 loaves and 2 fish to Jesus isn't just a logistical step in the story. It is a profound, necessary act of vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Okay.
It is the act of taking our incredibly inadequate, embarrassing hand of resources and exposing it completely to the Lord. You have to understand, we naturally operate on a meritocracy. We think we have to bring a certain amount of value to the table for God to work with it.
That is so true. We want to earn it.
Right. So exposing our lack shatters that pride. It is saying, Lord, this is all I have. It is nowhere near enough. It is actually humiliating how little I bring to this situation.
Yeah.
And instead of hiding that lack out of shame, we place it in his hands.
That mechanism of shame is just so powerful. It keeps us completely paralyzed.
I mean, it does.
During our small group time, Megami opened up so beautifully about this exact struggle.
Yes, her sharing was so moving.
She said that she often finds herself hiding her true self from God because she feels deeply ashamed of her own 5 loaves. Whether it's her prayer life feeling dry, her patience with her family running thin, or just feeling like a failure in her daily faith, she constantly feels like she has so little to offer.
Yeah.
So her instinct is to hide that inadequacy from God until she feels like she has fixed it, or until she can gather a bit more to present to him.
That resonates so deeply. I think especially for those of us in our 20s and 30s, we are swimming in a culture of performance.
Oh, absolutely.
We feel this immense pressure to have a polished, impressive spiritual resume to present to God. Like Megumi said, we want to bring him a fully stocked bakery, not a few broken, stale pieces of bread.
Yeah, we want to look good.
God's grace is contingent on our competence.
Yes. But what Megumi realized, and what the sermon highlighted so perfectly, is that Jesus actually invites the inadequacy.
He does.
He didn't look at the disciples' 5 loaves and scoff. He didn't tell them to come back when they had secured a catering company.
Right.
He said, bring them here to me. The empty hands, the embarrassing lack. That is the very prerequisite for his miracle. He wants us to surrender the embarrassing realities to him.
He invites it because our inadequacy is the exact canvas he uses to display his overwhelming grace.
The exact canvas.
Wow. If we wait until we feel like we are enough, we will never approach him. Abandoning our manufactured safety nets and surrendering our seemingly pathetic resources is the very threshold of experiencing his provision.
Okay, so we abandon the safety net. We hand over the lunch bowl. What actually happens?
A feast happens.
Exactly. The text gives us the result. It says that all the people, all the men, women, and children ate and were satisfied.
Satisfied.
And that forces me to challenge my own perspective, and I think it challenges all of us. Why do we so naturally expect the bare minimum from God? Like, we don't expect a feast, we just expect to survive the night. Why do we assume God is going to be stingy?
Because that is the absolute tragedy of our modern mindset. We project our own limitations onto God.
Yeah, we really do.
We ration our expectations to protect ourselves from the vulnerability of disappointment. But Pastor Giro broke down the profound meaning of that word satisfied used in the original language of the passage, and it completely shifts the narrative.
What does the original word imply?
The word implies being completely filled, even to the point of being fattened.
Oh, fattened.
Yeah, it is a deep, overflowing abundance. God's compassion isn't an 80% full kind of mercy.
Yeah, right. The hara hachibu mentality.
Exactly. In Japanese culture, we have this concept of hara hachibu, which means eating until you are exactly 80% full for health and longevity reasons.
Which is great for your body.
It is a fantastic physical health practice, but it is a toxic spiritual theology.
Oh, that's so true.
We often treat God's grace like it's hara hachibu. We think he will give us just enough peace to keep us from having a nervous breakdown or just enough strength to endure a terrible work week, but never announce more.
Yeah, we think his mercy is on a strict budget.
Exactly.
It is like we treat God's grace like a strict diet plan. We think if we ask for too much or if we expect too much joy or peace, we are being spiritually gluttonous. We think we're asking for more than our fair share. But Jesus isn't rationing calories here. He is throwing a banquet.
That is exactly it. The word satisfied points to a profound soul-level fulfillment that shatters our scarcity mindset.
Shatters it completely.
It immediately brings to mind Matthew 5:6, where Jesus says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied."
Oh, I love that verse.
It is the exact same mechanism. God's ultimate desire for you isn't that you just barely limp through the wilderness. It is that your deepest spiritual hungers are entirely, completely met in him.
Which shifts this whole story from just being a cool historical account of a free lunch into something so much heavier.
Oh, absolutely.
Because ultimately, this is not just about physical calories.
No, not at all. This is a vivid, beautiful foreshadowing of the gospel itself. Jesus didn't just come to provide physical bread that would leave people hungry again the next morning. He came to be the ultimate bread.
The ultimate bread.
He gave his own life, his own body on the cross so that our souls wouldn't thirst or starve anymore. When we surrender our brokenness and our sin, our ultimate inadequacy to him, he doesn't just give us a coping mechanism to get by.
Right.
He gives us himself. He is the provision that perfectly, eternally satisfies our souls.
He gives us himself.
Yep.
That is so powerful.
It really is.
Now, I want to just slow down and sit with this next detail for a second, because it is staggering. After everyone is stuffed, after 20,000 people are completely satisfied, Jesus tells the disciples to gather the leftovers.
For leftovers, yeah.
And they collect exactly 12 baskets full of broken pieces. 12 baskets.
The overflow.
Right. But think about who's holding those baskets. The 12 disciples.
Oh, right.
The very guys who just a few hours earlier were desperately trying to prevent this miracle by sending the crowds away.
Yeah.
The guys who essentially told Jesus that his intervention wasn't needed because they had a reasonable landing sod in mind.
Wow. Yes.
Now they're physically carrying the heavy, undeniable proof of his absolute necessity.
I love that you pointed that out. It is the ultimate antidote to the Jesus is unnecessary theology we were talking about earlier.
It really is the antidote.
Imagine being one of those disciples lifting that heavy woven basket full of bread and fish. You couldn't even lift it without realizing how profoundly wrong your self-reliance was.
Yeah.
They literally had to carry the physical weight of his grace. They had to hold the evidence that their engineered safety net would have robbed thousands of people of a miracle.
And it also shows his incredibly tender care for them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, those 12 guys were the ones running around, sweating, serving thousands of people, probably wondering the whole time if the bread was going to run out before they got a chance to eat themselves.
Totally.
They facilitated this massive miracle. And at the end of the day, Jesus made sure that they were not left with empty hands. One basket for each of them. Their service to the Lord wasn't in vain.
It just proves that the kingdom's economy is the exact opposite of our human logic.
So opposite.
Our logic says, if I give up control, I will lose everything. I will be left exposed and empty.
Right.
But the kingdom's logic is, if you surrender control to the ultimate authority of Jesus, you will step into a place of fulfillment you couldn't have ever engineered on your own.
Wow.
When you hand over your pathetic 5 loaves and 2 fish, you don't end up depleted. You end up carrying an overflow of his grace. We don't have to carry the crushing weight of figuring out the perfect landing spot anymore.
No, we don't.
We just have to bring what we have to the one who is already holding the whole world in his hands.
We just have to bring it to him. We've covered some heavy, beautiful truths today. But if you take just one thing away from this time together, let it be a hard look at your own life right now.
Yeah.
What is the safety net that you are frantically trying to engineer? Where are you micromanaging an outcome or settling for a managed failure because you are terrified of what will happen if you actually let go?
It's a tough question.
It is. What would it look like for you to open your hands this week? Stop trying to control the uncontrollable and simply surrender your embarrassing, inadequate 5 loaves to the ultimate authority of Jesus. Stop rationing his grace. Let him be the one to satisfy you.
We'll see you next week on GGC Radio.